Miser and the Gold. Uncle Melvin lived alone in a big house with a large garden. He was a miser who owned a lot of gold coins and never spent any of them. He kept them in a hole in the garden covered with some stones. Every day before he went to sleep, he would go to the hole where he hid his coins and counted the stones covering them to make sure the gold was secure in the hole. He repeated this every day and never spent any of the hidden gold. One day a thief found out about the miser, so he watched him until he learned the gold's location. The thief waited for the miser to return home, and at nightfall he went to the secret hole and took the gold and ran away. The next day, Melvin the miser found the stones on the hole scattered and the gold missing. He screamed out loud, "Oh!" His neighbor heard his screaming and asked, "What happened?" When the neighbor found out what had happened, he asked, "Why didn't you save the money inside your house? It would have been easier to reach the money when you needed to buy something." "Buy something?" said Melvin. "I never used the gold to buy anything. I would never spend it." When the neighbor heard Melvin, he threw a stone in the hole and said, "If that is the case, keep this stone instead of the gold. It's as useless as the gold you lost." Uncle Melvin learned that by being stingy, you're only saving money for others to spend. Man. Once upon a time there was a wise man living in a small village with poor villagers who knew him for his wisdom. The villagers had been coming to him to complain about their situation and poverty, while others looked for answers to their problems. And the wise man listened to them all and generously helped them. But the villagers were always complaining about the same problems that they had faced in their lives every single time. One day, the wise man gathered them and told them a joke, and everybody laughed. Then he told them the same joke again, and only a few of them smiled. When he told the joke for the third time, nobody laughed. The wise man smiled and said, "You can't laugh at the same joke over and over. So why are you always crying over the same problem? Worrying won't solve your problems. Instead, it wastes your time and energy. You must let go of complaining and face your problems so you can come up with a suitable solution."
Once upon a time, a troll decided to have some fun and created a mirror. In this mirror, all things beautiful and good appeared ugly and silly. The troll was very happy with his invention. He even decided to mock God himself and flew high into the sky with his mirror, but he couldn't hold on to it. The mirror fell and shattered into millions of tiny pieces, scattering all over the world. These were special pieces. Anyone who got one in their eye began to feel like kindness was laughable and beauty was ugly. Sometimes, the hearts of such people even turned cold. Around this time, in one town lived two friends, a boy named Kai and a girl named Gerda. One day, as Kai was playing outside, a piece of the mirror got into his eye. He began to see only the bad and the ugly in everything, and his heart started to turn cold. Meanwhile, the Snow Queen was looking for a child with a cold heart who could live in her icy palace. None of the children suited her. The queen wandered through the town, wondering what made the children so happy. They were all noisy and joyful, and none of them had a heart cold enough to come live with her. One frosty evening, the Snow Queen looked into a room where Kai and Gerda were sitting and decided that Kai was the child who would come live in her palace. A few days later, she met Kai on the street and invited him to ride in her carriage with her. When Kai got into the carriage, the Snow Queen took him to her land far away. She wanted Kai to forget everything and everyone and become a prince in her icy castle. When Kai disappeared, people told Gerda that an unknown lady in a luxurious icy carriage had taken him away. Gerda set off to find him. Along the way, she met a woman who wanted Gerda to stay with her. This woman was a fairy. The woman tried so hard that Gerda almost forgot about Kai and stayed. But Gerda remembered Kai and continued her search. Along the way, she met a crow, who told Gerda that he had seen the Snow Queen taking Kai to her icy palace. Then, Gerda met a little robber girl and her mother, who was also a robber. They wanted to keep Gerda with them, but then took pity on her and let her go. They even introduced Gerda to a reindeer to carry her across the snowy tundra. The reindeer carried Gerda until they neared the Snow Queen's realm, but the reindeer dared not go further. Gerda had to continue alone. She wandered for a long time, enduring the icy wind. She kept going despite losing her warm clothes. Finally, she reached the Snow Queen's domain. Before her stood a vast palace with ice statues that towered above her head. Everything inside was covered in frost. In the palace's main hall, next to the Snow Queen's throne, sat Kai, who had forgotten everything. The Snow Queen was not in the palace. She had gone south with the snowstorms and blizzards. Kai's heart was almost frozen, but Gerda's warm hug melted the cold. Kai remembered Gerda, remembered the town where he had lived. Then he cried, and the piece of the mirror fell from his eye. The friends set off home, their hearts full of joy. The Snow Queen did not try to stop them. Later, she would sometimes watch them in secret and was quietly amazed at how people could be so kind and strong. She was amazed that Gerda, small and weak, had overcome so many obstacles to save Kai, and at Kai, who with Gerda's help had managed to rid his eye of the shard from the magic mirror. And finally, she was amazed at all the warm human homes where people live and help each other.